Secretary of State, thank you much for joining us on ITV. And I think it'd be good for us to start by showing you some of the cases we've been covering and some of what the people have got to say about it, if that's okay with you.
We was told after Grenfell we were going to have a voice, and we haven't been heard. Nothing.
This has to stop. It has to stop, because they can't keep getting away with leaving families like this.
As Housing Secretary, how aware were you that this was going on, that people were living like this?
Well, I think the images you've just shown me and the families who are living through that is very shocking, and it's frankly shameful that in our country today people are having to live in those conditions. You've shone a light on some of the worst instances of councils and housing associations' failures. That needs to stop.
As the Housing Secretary, do you take responsibility? Do you feel shame that this is happening right now in the 6th richest economy in the world?
I think it's disgusting that people are living in those conditions. This is a minority of homes in this country. The majority of providers of social housing, whether that be councils or housing associations, are doing a good job, but there are clearly some that are falling way below the acceptable standard, and we need change. We need those councils and housing associations to step up and to provide good quality, decent housing for members of the public.
People watching this will know your government funds councils, and in the last 10 years you've cut their budgets by 38% in real terms. They've got £10 billion less to work with than they did 10 years ago. I mean, not seriously saying that the government have nothing to do with this. You fund these councils and they're now struggling to make these repairs.
No, Dan, let's be very clear. There is absolutely no excuse for councils like Croydon to be providing council housing like that. This is nothing to do with government funding. This is about neglect. This is about a lack of compassion and poor management in a small number of councils and housing associations.
To be clear, there are over 1.1 million people in this country, in England, on social housing waiting lists. They are living in homes. They may not be as extreme as Croydon, but I'm telling you, we are getting hundreds of emails a week of people living in damp, leaking properties, overcrowded, and they have nowhere else to go. They are trapped. There are 1.1 million people on social housing waiting lists. Last year, this country built just over 6,000 social homes. For every 175 families that need a home, you built them one.
No,
that is an abject failure, isn't it?
That's not correct, Dan.
That is correct.
Since 2010, we've built 500,000 affordable homes in this country, and we've built 150,000 homes for social rent.
Do you accept?
We have secured £11.5 billion to build more affordable homes in the years ahead.
Affordable homes, is it really important?
We need to build more homes as a country, and no government is tackling this issue more head-on than we are right now.
I'm talking about the kind of homes that the people in our reports could afford to live in, to rent.
Well, we are building those homes, but also let me be clear, Dan, not everybody wants or has to be consigned to living in homes for social rent. We want to ensure there is a ladder of opportunity so that, yes, there are more homes for social rent, but there are also more homes for shared ownership, first homes, so that young people and those who are key workers like NHS and social care workers can own a property.
In 2010, there were 61,000 affordable homes built in this country. Last year you built 58,000. So you've actually built fewer affordable homes last year than you did 10 years ago. And on that, the National Housing Federation say that we need to be building 145,000 homes a year, affordable homes a year, to meet demand. So you're well short, and do you admit you're well short of the target?
That's not correct. We're building more homes as a country than at any time
on about
in my lifetime.
Homes to rent.
We want to ensure that there are good quality homes for people all across the country.
After Grenfell, 5 years ago, the government said never again. It has been 5 years and we still haven't had the plan, the response to Grenfell, brought into law. Where is it?
Well, we have brought forward legislation. This week we've been debating in Parliament the Building Safety Bill, which is the biggest change to the safety regime around
I'm talking
buildings,
around the culture of tenants being listened to.
Buildings.
You know what I'm asking here, don't you? I'm talking about the culture of tenants being listened to.
But actually that is also being passed into law. We've created the Building Safety Regulator now in shadow form. It's being legislated for at the moment, and that will try to drive a culture change in the whole industry We're also setting out our plans in the white paper that I published last year and through the Charter on social housing for housing associations, councils and providers of social housing to radically improve the quality of service that they provide to their residents.
You're talking about a white paper that was not in the Queen's speech. We have no date for when it's going to be brought to Parliament. I assume it's somewhere sat in this office on a shelf somewhere. Why haven't you brought
Dan,
that
I published the white paper last year.
But why haven't MPs voted on it? Why hasn't it been brought forward? Why wasn't it in the Queen's speech?
We're bringing forward probably the most ambitious set of legislative changes to improve the rights of residents of homes for a generation. What we want to do is have a regulator that's really focused on the quality of housing and ensuring that if you have a complaint, then it's quickly addressed and you get the answers that you deserve. That culture change should happen now. There's no reason for it to be delayed. But what we're going to do over the course of this Parliament is legislate so that there are more powers for the regulator to really do that muscular consumer regulation that I think residents of social housing deserve.
And on that, it's a very simple question. When will that happen? When will that white paper be brought to Parliament for MPs to vote on?
Well, it will be brought to Parliament as soon as possible.
This year?
The first step.
Could you give us a date?
The first step.
Because people really want to know this. It wasn't in the Queen's speech.
The first step, Dan, it was mentioned in the Queen's speech. What we said was that the first step was to regulate on safety. That must be the government's first priority. And so we're regulating on that now through the Building Safety Bill. That will be followed by a bill which will change the regulatory regime so that people can have a better voice in in social housing as well.
So we haven't got a date for it. In terms of housing associations, you mentioned them earlier. Do you worry when you see what we've shown you, what you've seen in our reports, that when it comes to housing associations in particular, that they've lost their way slightly?
Some of these organisations are very big, they're sophisticated, and they have very well-paid executives. There is absolutely no excuse for them to be providing anything other than the best possible service to their residents.
Do you think they've got too big? They're paying themselves too much money?
I think executive pay is out of control in some of the housing associations that you've highlighted, absolutely. And I think they need to return to the kind of social and moral mission which is what housing associations and the charities that came before them really originated from.
One of the things that comes up time and time again in our reporting is that people don't feel like they're listened to. Would you agree to come and meet some of the residents we've spoken to in their homes, to see for yourself what they've been living through?
Of course, I'd be happy to do that. I mean, I do that all the time. Obviously, COVID has been an unusual period, and I want to ensure that residents of social housing are treated with the dignity and respect that they deserve as well.